Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis?
He was wrong. He's got a sick sense of paranoia.
I am concerned. I have a horrible feeling that we're seeing a breakdown in plain sight.
If they come here and if it goes off without a hitch, presumably that undermines his argument about the need for extra security.
He sort of painted himself into a corner a little bit because he either accepts that position now or he sticks his heels in and says, right, they can never come.
Nobody was supposed to know they were there. No announcement, no press release. No carefully managed photo opportunity staged for maximum emotional impact. No Sussex spokesperson briefing journalists in advance about what was about to happen at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire on Friday the 10th of July 2026. Just a car pulling through private gates. A family walking into a house. And a grandfather who had not seen his grandchildren in 4 years, standing in a room with a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl who barely know who he is. King Charles, Camilla, Harry, Meghan, Archie, Lilibet, together for the first time since Queen Elizabeth's funeral in September 2022.
Breaking today, growing fears of a constitutional crisis if King Charles goes ahead with a meeting with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle this weekend. That potential raised fascinatingly by Katie Nichols, the royal editor of Vanity Fair, who just so happens to be one of those journalists who Prince Harry tried to destroy in his Daily Mail court case, but now she, feeling emboldened for very good reason, believes that she probably has the information to destroy him. I mean, who genuinely now believes, after this week, that Prince Harry can remain a Councillor of State, signing off on laws? Who genuinely believes that Prince Harry can remain on the royal website? And who even genuinely believes that Prince Harry can remain in the line of succession? Not me. But here is Katie Nichols' argument on Piers Morgan.
Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis? How long can the king, who has been incredibly generous in extending the olive branch, in allowing them to have and retain those titles, when I think we've moved so far from the Sandringham Summit and what was agreed then, how far can Harry and Meghan continue to push it?
The problem is, Harry with his father, as I witnessed, he was always, he did no wrong. You know, the king always kind of, to an extent, let him get away with things. And he was the youngest son kind of thing. And I think Harry still thinks he's got that leverage over him. I honestly think that he still thinks he can, you know, pull the king's heartstrings. I think that's what this is about.
I think he does. And let's not forget that the king advised his son not to take on Associated newspapers.
Yeah. But also, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with these other relationships with the other complainants in this court case. We're all hearing that it's been a bit strange between Harry and Sir Elton John.
So, P. Dina, do you believe that this could end up resulting in a constitutional crisis? And that is one of the reasons why Prince William and Queen Camilla have been so keen to tell King Charles, like, just stay away?
Absolutely. And I think part of the reason is, once again, Meghan and Harry are not at agreement with each other, and so she is still influencing the things that Harry is doing, which is a direct influence or you know, on the monarchy, because the king is still kind of supporting Harry. I think it's just not good. You have seen what they have done in the past. Learn from that. They have already put a lot of things out there that don't look good for the monarchy in terms of the allegations that Harry is trying to walk back now, you know, around the racism and around things that, you know, Meghan had complaints with. So as long as Meghan is still a part of the picture, you have to distance yourself from Harry, because nothing good is going to come from that. I mean, any leeway you give to Harry is going to pass over to Meghan, and then we know she has a vendetta. We know that she has reasons to not want to align the way the royals want them to align, because she wants to have her say. So that's just never going to be good. You're just asking for trouble, and I think it could be a direct reflection to you know, the monarchy when there is.
The first time Charles had held his grandchildren in 4 years. The first time Meghan had been on British soil in 4 years. The first time this specific collection of people had been in the same room since everything that has happened between them became public property for the entire world to argue about. And it happened quietly, at a private country residence, without cameras, without statements, without the machinery that has surrounded every other interaction this family has attempted for 6 years. That silence, the absence of the usual Sussex media operation, is the most significant detail in this entire story. And understanding why it matters requires understanding everything that happened in the week that led up to it. Welcome to the Marquee Report. This is the full story of what actually happened and what it means. Let's go through the confirmed sequence of events, because the Highgrove reunion did not happen in isolation. It happened at the end of one of the most chaotic weeks Harry has had in Britain since Megxit. Harry arrived in London for Invictus Games promotional activities ahead of Birmingham 2027. That much was straightforward. But almost immediately, the week descended into the now familiar pattern of contradictory briefings and disputed narratives. His team announced Meghan would not be joining him for the London portion of the trip due to security concerns. Then reports emerged that Meghan and the children were actually traveling to the UK, but would not attend public events. Then a dispute erupted over Buckingham Palace accommodation. Harry's spokesperson said he had accepted an offer to stay there. The palace said he missed the deadline and the offer was withdrawn. Two completely contradictory versions of the same event from two sides of the same family. And then on Tuesday the 8th of July, while all of this was playing out, Harry lost his legal case against the Daily Mail. All 14 counts. A comprehensive rejection from Justice Nichol that left Harry standing at a podium at Chatham House, delivering a speech about the unconquered human spirit, while the verdict dominated every news cycle in Britain. It was the worst possible week for a visit that was supposed to generate positive coverage. Legal defeat. Accommodation chaos. Security briefings that contradicted each other. Commentators describing the whole operation as tiresome psychodrama. And then on Friday, quietly, Highgrove. Here is what has been confirmed, because precision matters in a story where so much has been disputed. King Charles and Queen Camilla hosted the Sussex family at Highgrove House, their private country residence in Gloucestershire. Present were Harry, Meghan's 7-year-old Archie and 5-year-old Lilibet. Buckingham Palace confirmed the meeting to the BBC. Neither Buckingham Palace nor a spokesperson for the Sussexes provided further comment beyond that confirmation. That confirmation from the palace itself is significant. This was not a leaked story from a Sussex-friendly source. This was the institution confirming that the meeting happened. A deliberate choice to put the fact on the record, without any detail about what was said, what was felt, or what it means for the future. It was the first time Charles had seen his grandchildren since 2022. Archie was 3 years old, the last time his grandfather held him. He is 7 now. Lilibet was 1, she is 5 now, 4 years. The entire span of early childhood, the years that shape everything about who a person becomes, passed without this grandfather and these grandchildren being in the same room. Charles is 77 years old and managing a serious cancer diagnosis. The window of time in which he can know these children in any meaningful way is not infinite, and everyone in that room on Friday knew it. Here is the detail that generated immediate discussion, because Camilla's presence at Highgrove changes the dynamic of this meeting significantly. Previous discussions about a potential Charles and Sussex reunion had consistently included the caveat that Camilla would not be present. Sources close to the palace had suggested on multiple occasions that any meeting would be between Charles and Harry without Camilla in the room, specifically because of the history between Meghan and the wider royal family and the complexity of managing those relationships simultaneously. Camilla was there. She and Charles hosted the Sussex family together at their private home. What that means in practical terms is that Meghan sat in a room with Camilla for the first time since Queen Elizabeth's funeral. Two women whose relationship has never been described as warm, whose positions within the family carry decades of complicated history, were apparently in the same space for the first time in 4 years. No account of that specific dynamic has been confirmed publicly. No source has described what was said between them or what the atmosphere was like. The palace confirmation was brief. The Sussex side said nothing. Whatever happened between Meghan and Camilla in that room is staying in that room. Here is where the interpretation of this event splits sharply, because commentators, including Dan Wootton, have been vocal about what they believe this meeting actually represents. On one side, those who see this as a genuine and meaningful human moment, a grandfather meeting grandchildren he has not seen in 4 years, a family finding some version of connection in the middle of everything that has gone wrong, an acknowledgement that whatever the adults have done to each other, the children are innocent and deserve to know their grandfather while they still can. That reading is human. It is emotionally coherent, and it is the reading that Charles's own advisors appear to have endorsed by confirming the meeting publicly. On the other side, commentators, including those on Dan Wootton's platform, have expressed serious concern about what this meeting signals institutionally. The argument is specific. Harry arrived in Britain having just lost a 14-count legal case in which a judge's written ruling noted he went beyond giving factual evidence during his testimony. He arrived in the middle of a security chaos narrative that multiple sources confirmed was not based on any new change to his actual security situation. He arrived with a week of contradictory briefings that the palace itself described through a royal aide as testing the king beyond endurance. And at the end of that week, Highgrove happened. And the question being asked is whether the king rewarded behavior that every person close to him had described as exhausting, manipulative, and institutionally damaging. Dan Wootton's position, as stated publicly on social media and through his platform, is direct. King Charles is absolutely right to say no to Harry and Meghan staying at Buckingham Palace. They lied about racism to try and bring down the royal family. Everything they touch turns into tawdry melodrama. The Highgrove meeting happened after the Buckingham Palace accommodation was withdrawn. Whether it represents a softening of Charles's position or simply a father making a separate decision about his grandchildren independent of the institutional question is the central unresolved debate. Here is the detail that defines the limits of what Highgrove actually achieved. William was not there. William and Catherine were not at Highgrove. There was no meeting between the brothers, no confirmation of any contact. A friend of William, quoted by the Daily Mail earlier this week, stated plainly that William made clear some time ago he did not want anything to do with his brother, and that has not changed. That position has not changed. It did not change because Meghan and the children came to Highgrove. It did not change because Charles chose to host the family. William's line is his own, and he has maintained it with complete consistency across years of Sussex media cycles, designed to create the appearance of progress. Kinsey Schofield put the institutional reality plainly. From King Charles's perspective, the issue is not whether he loves Harry or his grandchildren. It is whether private family business can remain private. Right now, there is very little evidence to reassure him. Christopher Anderson, author of The King, captured the broader pattern in a single observation. Every time it looks as if there might be a last-minute chance for some sort of tender reunion, it all falls apart. Every planned moment turns into a dumpster fire. Highgrove appears to be an exception to that pattern. Whether it holds, whether the meeting produces anything durable, or whether the next media cycle returns to the same contradictions, is the question nobody can answer from the outside. Here is the human reality that sits underneath every institutional and political calculation in this story. Archie is 7, Lilibet is 5. They did not choose any of this. They did not choose to be born into a family where their parents' decisions made them the subject of global media coverage before they were old enough to understand what media coverage meant. They did not choose to grow up in California, largely separated from a grandfather who is the King of England and who, by every account, genuinely loves them. Archie was photographed on Father's Day wearing an England FIFA World Cup 2026 jersey. A 7-year-old boy who apparently knows enough about his heritage to want to wear his grandfather's country's football shirt. 5-year-old Lilibet carries the name of a great-grandmother she never knew. 2 children navigating an inheritance of history and conflict and love that no child should have to navigate. Charles apparently understood that whatever his feelings about the week's chaos, whatever his advisors were saying about tiresome psychodrama and endurance being tested, those 2 children in a car on the way to Highgrove were not responsible for any of it. He met them. He held them. He is 77 years old and managing cancer, and he chose to spend Friday afternoon with his grandchildren. That is the one part of this story that requires no institutional analysis or media interpretation. It is simply what it is. Here is where everything stands as of July 12, 2026. The Highgrove meeting happened and was confirmed by Buckingham Palace. Charles and Camilla hosted Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet. The first time the full Sussex family has been in Britain together since 2022, and the first time Charles has seen his grandchildren in 4 years. No statement was issued beyond the bare confirmation. No detail about what was said. No indication of what it means for the future. William's position has not changed. The legal defeat at the Daily Mail stands. The Buckingham Palace accommodation dispute remains unresolved and disputed. The Invictus Birmingham fundraising gap remains. Dan Wootton and commentators who follow this closely are divided between those who see a genuine human moment and those who see the latest chapter in a pattern of manipulation that the institution keeps failing to hold a consistent line against. What is confirmed is this. A grandfather met his grandchildren, 4 years after the last time, in a private house in Gloucestershire, without cameras, without statements, without the Sussex media operation running at full capacity. That silence, for one afternoon at least, was different from everything that came before it. Whether it becomes anything more than one quiet afternoon is the question the next news cycle will attempt to answer. This has been the Marquee Report. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. See you on the next one.